Hi everybody. Today is February 19th, 2025, and I'm posting these videos as a form of therapy to recover from the trauma of watching my little brother, my last relative in Greater Vancouver, my little brother Paul Kierans, be locked up by his group home L'Arche and the British Columbia New Democratic Party and David Eby. Paul's Member of Parliament was Jagmeet Singh, also a New Democratic Party member. While Paul was locked up when I complained to the Burnaby RCMP about a secret, fraudulent, and forged power of attorney, or what I allege was a secret, fraudulent, and forged power of attorney. The BC New Democratic Party government created to give Paul the COVID-19 shot on February 1st of 2026. So Paul was locked up, and I did everything that I could legally. I fought to restore our visits. I wasn't able to do that. I fought to be his substitute decision maker. I wasn't able to do that. And Paul, 26 days after the decision dismissing my application to be Paul's guardian, he died. I was allowed to visit him after he had a stroke, and he couldn't speak anymore. But he was struggling to recover. He had a stroke on April, or something happened to him. He had a wound on the side of his head that was oozing blood. So somebody could have injured him, or he could have fallen. But he was at Burnaby Hospital, and they told me that he had had a stroke. He appeared to me, and I probably know him better than anybody, to be recovering. He was struggling to recover. When I said, "Hi, Paul, it's Kathleen," he grabbed my hand and squeezed it so tight like a steel vise. He wouldn't let it go. He grabbed a book out of my hand, a great big coffee table book, and looked at the pages appropriately, scanned the pages appropriately, and he made eye contact with me appropriately with his good eye, his right eye. But when our 82-year-old Catholic nun, who had been appointed his guardian, who lives 4,000 kilometers away in Northern Ontario, and who left home when Paul was born and who's never lived with him, she secretly was appointed his guardian. So she flew in when he had this stroke. And when she found out that I had been informed by the RCMP that they were investigating the fraudulent and forged power of attorney, she had Paul's oxygen mask removed, and I believe she had him sedated to death. I complained that he was being over-sedated. When I've described what happened to Paul to other people, they say it sounds like the hospital staff did medical assistance in dying on Paul, which even in Canada, incapable adults cannot consent to being killed by the state. Canada has, since Justin Trudeau came into power on October 19th of 2015, Canada has killed extrajudicially with no judicial oversight at all 60,000 Canadians. Canada has the highest rate of killing this way in the world. 5 out of every 100 deaths, or 20% of deaths now in Canada. I'm sorry, 1 out of every 20 deaths in Canada is caused by a doctor administering a lethal injection to a vulnerable person. And I think Paul was struggling to recover. I don't think he was dying. I don't know, but he should have been given a chance to recover. And the fact that his oxygen mask was removed and he was sedated this way right after the nun found out that she was being investigated by the RCMP makes me think she had the means, motive, and opportunity to kill him, and that's what she did. I've complained to the coroner, and I've asked the Burnaby RCMP to treat his death as a suspicious death, although I don't think that they did. So what I'm thinking about today is Canada's horrific development with, I call him Infidel Castro. Justin Trudeau, since he came into power, 60,000 people have been killed by the state. They don't need to be sick. They don't need to be dying. They just need to be suffering from some kind of discomfort, and Canada will pay a regular doctor or nurse to kill them. All that's necessary is the signature of any two medical professionals. They don't need to even know the patient. And the patient, as far as I know, there's no guarantee that there is, like in my brother's case, his signature was forged to give him the COVID-19 shot. I know because I taught Paul to print the only word that he knows how to print, and that's his first name, Paul. And it was an obvious forgery on the document. So it would be very easy to forge the signature of these vulnerable Canadians that are being killed. But what I'm thinking about is this recent development of, as soon as he was elected, having never mentioned it before, Donald Trump threatened to make Canada the 51st state, to annex Canada. I actually had been supportive of, sympathetic to Donald Trump, but this is how he operates. He never mentions through 8 years of campaigning that he's interested in annexing my beautiful country and basically obliterating it as a sovereign nation. And what occurred to me this morning, and I hope I can explain this clearly, is what Donald Trump, as soon as I heard him say, and I also heard Robert Kennedy say that, that during the American Revolutionary War in the 1770s, that the American General Benedict Arnold had managed to make it to Montreal, and Robert Kennedy said, and Canada would be part of the United States, except for there was a typhoid epidemic. There was a typhoid outbreak, and the American Revolutionary soldiers had to return to the U.S. And so this was a theme that came up repeatedly in Robert Kennedy's speeches, that about epidemics, and that but for a typhoid epidemic, Canada would be part of the United States. And so as soon as the first thing that Donald Trump said once he was actually elected was he insulted our so-called prime minister of a minority government, Justin Trudeau. I call him Infidel Castro. That he immediately invited him to be the governor of the 51st state. And he's apparently quite serious about this. He's put it out through Steve Bannon and others that he's quite serious in amalgamating or annexing Canada and making it the 51st state, which you can imagine. I was born in Toronto, raised in Sudbury and Montreal. I'm amateur military historian, and this is my country, my home and native land. But the point I wanted to make today is that Donald Trump conveyed to Justin Trudeau and the rest of Canada by basically saying, I want to obliterate you, this basically 1,000-year-old country, because the Vikings settled in Newfoundland about 1,000 years ago. And we've had John Cabot and Jacques Cartier and all the explorers that have visited Canada and have settled here. And the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of Canadian soldiers that have spilled blood to protect our land. And this huckster, sleazeball, Donald Trump, says, well, your country, why don't you just go away and not be a country anymore? Your existence, your sovereignty has no value. And what struck me, or what I was thinking today, is that is exactly the message that Canadians are conveying to innocent, vulnerable, and mostly impoverished Canadians that are being killed with medical assistance and dying, which is a misnomer, by the way. I keep on repeating this. The word medical is from the Greek to heal, and you never heal anybody by killing them. No matter what you say, it's not medical. You're killing people, but it's not medical. You're not healing people. But so what Donald Trump was saying is that Canada, an entity for which I would give my life gladly, is not even worth preserving. Its sovereignty, it just might as well be absorbed into the United States, that our 1,000-year history might as well be absorbed into the United States. And what occurred to me is that's exactly the message we're giving all these people that are opting to be killed by a lethal injection. And the most sloppy, even from a legal standpoint, there's no judicial oversight. I did divorces for 16 years. I was a divorce lawyer, and it would take about a year to get a divorce, and every single divorce had to be scrutinized and approved by a Supreme Court judge. And yet, we're killing people dead, never to exist again. One thing we know from DNA is that every single person has never existed before and will never exist again. And they have intrinsic value, just as Canada has intrinsic value. So I watched my brother be killed before my eyes, and I believe they slipped it through because they're sloppy now. I mean, why not kill him? To my knowledge, there's not been a single improper euthanasia done on anybody where there's been a legal challenge, a successful legal challenge. I understand there's one, but I want to say to you doctors and nurses that have jumped on the euthanasia bandwagon and are killing Canadians left, right, and center, this is morally wrong, and there's no law on earth that can give you the right to do something which is morally wrong. And it's been seen more as morally wrong by human beings for 50,000 years. And Justin Trudeau coming into power, the failed drama queen coming into power, does not make something that's morally wrong suddenly morally right. But we have lost the moral standing to stand up to people like Donald Trump. And I warned you all 5 years ago that this was going to happen. And I've repeatedly warned you that this was going to happen. That if we can't protect our most innocent and vulnerable citizens, we don't deserve to exist as a sovereign nation. It has to stop now. And as I said, all you doctors and nurses that are, killing people, your time is going to come. The time came for the people at Auschwitz. And your time will come. So think twice before you kill another person. Because it's not okay with most of humanity. And hopefully it will be made recriminalized. The first thing that Justin Trudeau did when he came to power was he decriminalized murder and marijuana. Anyways, that's it for today. I love you all. Take care.